Hello everyone, I'm Vitlaj and welcome to The Observer. And the video that we're going to be reacting today is a very controversial stand-up show by a prominent Indian stand-up comedian, VirDas, on I Come From to Indias. It is a stand-up show at Kennedy Center, America. Let's watch it together.
I wanted to try something since you're all, this is a moment for me. So, is it okay if I make a small video with you guys before I leave? Would that be alright, yeah? We are at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. We are sold out. Did you have a good time tonight, guys? The temptation in this moment is to make a video about myself, and I don't want to do that because I'm reminded that I come from India. I come from which India? I come from two Indias. Those are the Indias that I bring on stage with me right now. I come from an India where children in masks hold hands with each other, and yet I come from an India where leaders hug each other without masks. I come from an India where the AQI is 9,000, but we still sleep on the roof and look up at the stars. I come from an India where we worship women during the day and gang rape them at night. I come from an India where we claim to be divided over Bollywood on Twitter and yet are united by Bollywood in the darkness of a theatre. I come from an India where we scoff at sexuality and yet fuck till we reach 1 billion people. I come from an India where journalism is supposedly dead because men in fancy suits in studios give each other hand jobs, and yet women on the road with laptops are still telling the truth. I come from an India where we bleed blue every time we play green, but every time we lose to green, we turn orange all of a sudden. I come from an India where we laugh so loudly in the comfort of our own homes that you can hear us through the walls, and yet I come from an India where we break down the walls of a comedy club because you can hear laughter inside. I come from an India where old leaders will not stop talking about their dead fathers and young leaders will not stop following their living mothers. I come from an India that has the largest working population under 30 on the planet but still listens to 75-year-old leaders with 150-year-old ideas. I come from an India where every time we get information, we are always available to care for the PM, but we can't seem to get any information on PM cares. I come from an India where we kicked out the British, but yet we call the government the ruling party. I come from an India where women wear saris and sneakers and yet have to take advice from old men who have never worn a sari and will never get to take one off in their entire lives. I come from an India where our music is bahut hard but our sentiments are bahut soft. I come from an India where people sleep outside on the road outside the club, but man, 20 times a year the road is the club. I come from an India where we take pride in being vegetarians and yet run over the farmers who grow our vegetables. I come from an India where we claim to fully support the troops until it comes to their pension plans. I come to an India where we can never be on time no matter where we go. But yet we are always early on the CoWin website for some reason. I come from an India where we have maids and drivers and yet want to come to America to do their job. I come from an India that self-serves, and I come from an India that self-preserves. I come from an India that will not shut up, and yet I come from an India that will not speak up. I come from an India that will accuse me of airing our dirty laundry, and yet I come from an India that wears their heart on their sleeve, irrespective of how dirty their clothes are. I come from an India that tells me every single day to go to Pakistan, and yet I also come from an India that invites Pakistanis over every single day. If only to whoop their ass on a cricket field. I come from an India India that is going to watch this and say, this isn't stand-up comedy, where is the goddamn joke? And yet I come from an India that will watch this and know that there is a gigantic joke, it just isn't funny. I come from an India where children living in basements and writing on comment sections have more courage than men in skyscrapers. I come from an India that is Hindu and Muslim and Christian and Sikh and Parsi and Jew, and when we all look up at the sky, we only see one thing together, the price of petrol. I leave you tonight and I go back to that India. Which India do I go back to? Both of them. Which India am I proud of? One of them. Which India is proud of me? None of them. I wanted to do this because we're at the Kennedy Center. You know, this is a dream for an artist. It's been mine for a very long time. And the reason it's a dream is because you get to see great people here. You get to see greatness on this stage. And this whole room was built for a great man in his memory. But as I stand here before you, I'm reminded that I represent a great people. Great people who built a great thing that is turning into a memory. And I know that you believe in that India like I believe in that India, because I see it in your eyes and you are in this room tonight. So before I leave your country, I will leave this stage and I will put the camera on you, and you make some noise for the India you want to live in, because I promise you that this is the Kennedy Center, but tonight this is our fucking house. So make some noise for India.
Okay, I would say VirDas is an exceptional stand-up comedian, and the poem was so wonderful. Being an Indian, it's so hard to swallow some of the facts. It's so quite hard to accept the things which are so true. And we've got to know this is actually not only happening in India, but also in the world. Every country. India is not on the top of the list. India is there, but a lot of European countries, a lot of other countries are there in the case of rape, political issues, religious issues, and so on. We are not on the list. We're not on the top of the list, but we are there among the other countries. So it's happening everywhere in the world. And being a native Indian, I would say to the no-native Indians, you know, India is such a diverse country. There are differences of caste, of color, of creed, of culture, of religion, of language, and a lot more. But still, we believe in unity and diversity. But despite the problems, there are a lot of good things happening in India. India is growing. The politicians, the professionals, entrepreneurs are relentlessly working to be the superpower, to make India to be the superpower in the world. So we are working on it. We definitely be the superpower from the super poor, definitely. And you know, there are of course issues which is actually not only happening in India but in the world. As I mentioned earlier, India is actually not on the top of the list, but we are there. That's it. And VirDas is actually presenting it in its own way. I think his own way, and that's a good thing. You know, he's actually talking about India. He's not only the person who speaks about India and who's actually criticizing the government or speaking against India. It's not against India. I don't really believe it is against India. It is sometimes against the government, which is doing some bad, something in some areas. I'm not blaming in everywhere, but some areas need to be clear, need to be focused. So he criticized, and we have every right to criticize the government. You know, it's the most patriotic thing that we can ever do, to criticize our nation when it is going wrong, when it is doing the wrong thing. So he did it in a very good way. I really appreciate the person, and I am actually supporting this person, because we have every right to criticize and talk about India, talk about the culture. Besides, we can definitely work together to make a better India. That's what we can do here. We need to address the issues which is happening in the world, especially in India. And some of the facts can be misleading. When he says we worship women in the day and gang rape at night, it can be misleading. It's not all about a particular religion. It's the same person who worship goddess, the worship woman, who never go and do the gang rape at night. It's not happening here. It's not so true. But it's in the other perspective. He says in a two sides, two sides of people, and that's it. So it's not the same people, same person. So that's it. And some of the facts are, you have to understand it in a more liberal, more easy way, in a very good perspective. Try to be so optimistic about it, and then you can definitely enjoy the entire presentation, the entire video. That's it. And that's the thing. So that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. If you really like this video, please consider subscribing.